Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. This is going to be the shortest video online available that will refute the arguments and the positions of Asharis and Maturidis, and we are going to refute their reasons for rejecting Allah Subhanahu wa Taala's attribute. First of all, the positions of Ashari and Maturidis are they reject some attributes of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, stating that it doesn't make sense or it does not go with their philosophical understanding of God, whereas God introduced himself in this manner. However, the Salafi position is we take from Quran. We always believe what is written in Quran, and when we talk about Allah, we follow two criteria, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Quran says that there is nothing like him, and we believe it. Everything that we say, we believe with this criteria. We put this criteria first. Second thing is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is explicitly, strictly prohibited us from saying anything about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from not knowing. So it is explicitly prohibited from us, prohibited for us to say anything about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without knowing about that thing. And this is what Asharis and Maturidis do. They would prioritize their philosophical understanding of God that they learned from Christian philosophers and pagan philosophers, Greek philosophers, and they reject the verses of Quran, and they reject the verse where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala explicitly mentioned and prohibited us from saying anything about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without knowing. And thus they reject that Allah has hands, Allah has eyes, Allah has a face, Allah has legs, these attributes of God, and so many other attributes of God. They reject all of them. So how do we refute them? So first, we have to understand that when Quran talks about the attributes of God and Allah uses specific words, these words have meaning. Asharis and Maturidis will say that these are metaphorical meaning, and we will go over this next, no problem. So when we say that these words have specific meaning, we mean that these words have a specific meaning. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could have used different words to introduce himself or talk about himself. However, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala specifically used these words. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about his hands, he used the word hands. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talked about his face, he specifically used the word face in Arabic. When he talked about his legs, he specifically talked about his legs. When he talked about his eyes, he specifically talked about his eyes, and he used specifically these specific words to describe himself. But however, what the Asharis Maturidis will say, they will try to give different meaning of these words. They'll say that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about his hands, he is talking about his will to give rewards, or he is talking about his rewards. However, when you make such a statement, first you have to prove it through prophetic tradition. You have to prove that companions believed that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talked about his hands, he meant rewards. There is no such hadith nor in Quran Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala details that, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says anything like that, nor prophet said anything like that. So you are making a claim about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without knowing. That goes against the verse in Quran. You are saying something about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without knowledge. So you are contradicting a Quran verse from Quran. And secondly, when you say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is using the word his hands, that means something different, which is reward. What you were saying that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not know the word reward, that's why he was using his hands, right? He didn't know about that word. And yeah, that doesn't make any sense at all, because also when he is saying the word reward, if that word is used, the metaphorical word is used in this context, in this verse, that verse has to make sense. For example, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about two hands that he used to create human, these two if the two hands meant his reward, that would mean that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about his two rewards. However, we know for a fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has multiple rewards, unlimited rewards, infinite rewards. We don't know anything. Some of them we don't even know. So it is not, this whole sentence is stopped making sense. And this is same for all the other words. Whatever metaphorical meaning they are implying, if you put those metaphorical words in the sentence stops starting make sense. They stop making sense, and sentence gets twisted. Only time the sentence makes sense when you truly use the specific words that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used for himself. Therefore, we can clearly say that we don't have any right to change the word of Allah. Whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described about himself, we can't change it. We don't have any right to change it. And when you are changing it, you are not only twisting it, you are making the whole verse of Quran unrecognizable, and this verse of Quran stops making sense. Therefore, we have to reject this type of metaphorical meaning that you are implying into these verses. Lastly, when you say that when if we take these literally, that would mean that we are implying God has a body, God has a physical attribute. However, you are making another mistake. When we talk about there are four principles salafs followed whenever describing the attributes of God. First, one is when we talk about the attributes of God, we take what is written and how it is written. We don't change the meaning. We don't. Second thing is we don't reject the meaning. Third thing is we don't equate the meaning with any creation, and we don't compare the meaning of the words with any creation. So these, when we take these four, it is impossible for you to say that we are comparing God with any creation. And remember the first verse we talked about, that there is nothing like him. We believe it. And even if you look into the world, if I say that I have legs and this chair that is in front of me has legs as well, legs can have different meaning. My legs and the legs of the chair is not same, even though both of us are creation. Similarly, God's hand and our hands are not same. There is nothing like him. My hand is a and hand of a door is not same. Therefore, we can't comprehend the hand of God. But when God is talking about hand, we acknowledge it. We say that yes, God have hand. However, we say that we don't know how it is, because whatever God has given us, to some extent, we understand the concept of God, but it is impossible for us to understand what the hand of God is, but we acknowledge it because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described it about himself, and we don't have the right to change the meaning of it. Yeah. So when you take consider all of these things, you clearly see that the position of the Asharis and Maturidis are wrong. And if you go historically, you'll see that the idea of these Ashari Maturidis ideas they got from philosophers. You cannot track back these ideas to the prophetic tradition. And we have prophetic tradition. We have hadith of prophet's interaction with the Jew who questioned prophet about this, and prophet acknowledged it. We have prophet's interaction with a slave woman where prophet acknowledged these attributes of God. And all these hadith, all these verses in the Quran, everything direct to one direction. Everything points to one direction, which is Allah does have these attributes, and we acknowledge it. How Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described himself. We don't have any right to reject these attributes of God. Another thing, when you start rejecting the attributes of God, is stating that, well, to me it seems like it is human. You are talking about, when you talk about this, to me it sounds like I'm comparing God with any creation, and that can be applied to everything. When God talks about his wrath, you can say that wrath, I mean, when wrath, we don't see in this world any animals having wrath. We don't see that wrath. You can apply the word wrath onto any animal. So you start rejecting these attributes. When you talk about the will, we don't see the will of God or will of anything. When we talk about will, we only, you can imagine human, right? You cannot say that any other thing has will. So in that, by that logic, we also have to reject the will of God, because when you think about will, it sounds like that it comes from a creation, and when you talk about the love of God, it sounds like it is for creation. So we cannot accept that as well. And by that logic, you start rejecting all the attributes of God, which is what Jahmis did. And Jahmis are kufr, and this idea of rejecting attributes of God came from the Jahmis, because Mr. Ashari's father was a Jahmi, and he knew about this from that Jahmi individual. Therefore, this whole Ashari Maturidi Akida is based upon Jahmi Akida, and it is not based upon the Akida of the Salaf. Prophet and his companions never rejected any verse of Quran. They understood verses of Quran and attributes of Quran, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed it for themselves and they took it literally. If they didn't, if there was any metaphoric meaning, they have discussed themselves, and there would have been a there would be hadith that would prove that. But we don't have such hadith, therefore it is um, not permissible for us to reject any attributes of God.